In the quiet suburb of Northport, Florida, 21-year-old Denise Lee was a devoted mother to her two young sons, aged 4 and 2. On the evening of May 10, 2008, Michael King, a 37-year-old with a violent criminal record, broke into her home while her children slept in a nearby room. King had previously served time for attempted murder and had a documented history of stalking and domestic abuse against his own mother. Denise's husband, Nathan Lee, was working a night shift, leaving her alone and vulnerable in the house that quiet Saturday night. King forced Denise into her own SUV at gunpoint, initiating a harrowing journey that would last more than 6 hours. Unbeknownst to King, Denise had secretly dialed 911 from her cell phone, which she had slipped into the pocket of her robe. The call connected to a Charlotte County dispatcher named Leslie, but Denise could not speak openly without risking her life. Instead, she began asking King questions in a calm tone, crafting a conversation that sounded ordinary to him but was a lifeline to the outside world. Leslie quickly grasped the situation and began recording the call, typing cues for Denise to follow without alerting her captor. Denise asked, "Are you going to kill me?" and King replied, "I don't know yet," a chilling admission captured on tape. She then pressed, "Why are you doing this?" and King claimed he was angry at her husband over a minor dispute. Denise used empathy to keep him talking, asking about his childhood and why he had become violent. King revealed a troubled past, mentioning an abusive stepfather, which Denise acknowledged to establish rapport. She asked, "Have you done this before?" and King admitted to previous abductions, providing critical intelligence for investigators. The call lasted over 20 minutes, during which Denise's voice never broke into panic, a feat of composure that stunned experts later. Leslie typed real-time questions like, "Ask him where he grew up," and Denise seamlessly incorporated them into her dialogue. King drove the SUV erratically, changing routes to evade detection, but the call allowed police to track his movement via cell tower pings. At one point, King pulled over and assaulted Denise, yet she continued the conversation without screaming, protecting the call's integrity. Denise asked about his family, and King spoke of his stepfather's violence, offering a psychological profile for law enforcement. She used active listening techniques, mirroring his words to build trust and delay any lethal action. King eventually discovered the phone and threw it out the window, but the call had already provided a 10-mile radius for the search. The call ended abruptly, but dispatchers had recorded every word, creating a devastating timeline of Denise's final hours. King drove to a remote wooded area in Charlotte County, where he ended Denise's life in a brutal act of violence. Her body was found the next morning by a search team, leading to a statewide manhunt for King. King was arrested hours later at a gas station, thanks to vehicle descriptions and GPS data from the call. The 911 recording became the centerpiece of the prosecution's case, played in court to a silent, tearful jury. Prosecutors used Denise's own words to illustrate her courage, including her question, "Why did you pick me?" King was convicted of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and sexual battery, with the jury citing the call as decisive evidence. He was sentenced to death in October 2009, but the case would spend years in appeals. The call gained national attention, featured on Dateline NBC and 48 Hours, and was analyzed on true crime podcasts worldwide. Denise's story highlighted the importance of keeping cell phones accessible in emergencies, a simple yet vital safety tip. Law enforcement agencies rewrote training manuals for dispatchers, emphasizing covert communication techniques inspired by this call. The case prompted Florida to review its prison release policies, as King had been out on parole for less than a year. Statistics showed that only 12% of kidnapping victims ever reach help via phone, making Denise's call statistically rare. The FBI studied the call as a model of victim-led interrogation, noting Denise's ability to extract confessions under duress. Psychologists called her response extraordinary cognitive control, as she maintained complex thought while in trauma. King's past included a 1995 attempted murder conviction, where he beat a woman with a hammer, showing a long pattern of violence. Denise's family launched the Denise Lee Foundation, which offers self-defense classes and emergency preparedness kits to communities. Her husband, Nathan Lee, became a vocal advocate for victim rights, speaking at policy hearings about parole reform. The dispatcher Leslie received a life-saving award and now trains others on handling hidden 911 calls. Unique fact: Denise's call was one of the first to be used as primary evidence in a Florida death penalty trial. Another unique fact: King admitted on the call to committing similar crimes in Mississippi, leading to reopening of cold cases there. The case inspired a 2012 documentary titled "The Girl on the 911 Call," which won awards for its sensitive portrayal of trauma. Denise's mother, Becky, went on to give keynote speeches about vigilance and resilience, sharing her daughter's story at conferences. The call transcript was published in criminology textbooks as a case study for negotiation tactics under extreme threat. Police noted that Denise repeatedly asked about her sons, showing her maternal instincts even in her final hours. King showed no remorse in court, smirking during the playing of the call, which hardened public sentiment against him. The case led to legislation in Florida mandating that violent offenders undergo extended monitoring after release. Data from the FBI indicated that 75% of kidnappings are resolved within 24 hours, but Denise's case stretched that window with her call. The call was analyzed by voice stress experts, who confirmed Denise showed no signs of deception, only focused survival. King's trial included testimony from a forensic psychiatrist, who diagnosed him with antisocial personality disorder. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours, a sign of the overwhelming evidence from Denise's own words. Denise's neighbors recalled her as a friendly, caring person who always looked out for others, making the crime even more shocking. The SUV King used was tracked via LoJack, a system that activates upon theft, which combined with the call to narrow the search. The case was cited in a Department of Justice report on improving responses to violent crimes against women. King's appeals have been denied multiple times, and he remains on death row as of 2023, with no execution date set. Denise's sons, now teenagers, have spoken publicly through their father about missing their mother, keeping her memory alive. The call is archived at the National 9/11 Association as a training resource for dispatchers worldwide. Unique fact: Denise whispered at least 3 times during the call when King was distracted, whispering directions that helped police. She whispered, "He's turning left on River Road," which matched later GPS data and confirmed her location. The case inspired a chapter in the book, The Gift of Fear, by Gavin de Becker, which discusses survival instincts. De Becker noted that Denise's ability to engage King's empathy was a textbook example of de-escalation. The 911 system itself was upgraded in Charlotte County to better handle silent calls, adding text-to-speech options. Denise's story was featured on ABC 2020, with the headline, "The Secret 911 Call," drawing over 10 million viewers. The case sparked discussions about stalking laws, as King had followed Denise for 3 days before the kidnapping. King's vehicle was seen on multiple neighborhood cameras, but he was never flagged due to privacy concerns. The Lee family filed a civil suit against the state for failing to monitor King, but it was dismissed due to sovereign immunity. Denise's final words captured on the call were a plea, "I want to see my boys again," which became a rallying cry for safety reforms. The call was played at a Senate hearing on domestic violence, moving lawmakers to introduce the Denise Lee Act. That act, though not passed, influenced increased funding for victim advocacy programs in Florida. The case highlighted racial and socioeconomic disparities in how missing persons cases are prioritized, as Denise was a white middle-class woman. King's criminal history included a 2007 arrest for kidnapping, but he was released due to a plea deal, a failure of justice. The documentary, The Girl on the 911 Call, won an Emmy for Outstanding Crime Documentary in 2013. Denise's hometown of Northport erected a memorial bench in her honor at a local park, engraved with her name. The call inspired a true crime podcast episode that became one of the most downloaded in its series. Experts calculated that Denise's conversation with King delayed his violent actions by at least 90 minutes, giving police crucial time. King admitted on the call that he had a gun, which he used to threaten Denise when she tried to plead for her life. The case was used in FBI training to demonstrate how victims can manipulate captors through conversational cues. Denise's friend and neighbor, Sarah, testified that she often saw Denise playing with her kids in the front yard, a picture of normalcy. The 911 call length, 22 minutes and 34 seconds, is considered one of the longest covert calls ever documented. Unique fact: King had been previously convicted for stalking his ex-girlfriend, but the court did not require him to wear a GPS monitor. The case led to a partnership between the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and wireless carriers to improve cell tracking during emergencies. Denise's mother described her daughter as a silent warrior who used words as weapons when she had no other choice. The trial judge allowed the full call to be played, denying King's motion to suppress it as prejudicial. King's defense argued that he was under the influence of drugs, but the call showed him speaking clearly and coherently. Denise's voice on the call has been analyzed for pitch and rate, revealing she lowered her tone to appear calm and submissive. This subtle tactic is now taught in hostage negotiation courses as voice lowering for survival. The case was featured on The Dr. Phil Show, where Nathan Lee discussed the importance of trusting one's instincts in dangerous situations. Statistics from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children show that only 1 in 10 kidnappings involve a stranger, making Denise's case an outlier. King's cell phone history revealed he searched for how to disappear after a crime hours before the kidnapping. The call was a breakthrough in forensic linguistics, as it provided a direct record of a kidnapping in progress. Denise's sons were not harmed by King, as he left them asleep in the house, a detail that brought some comfort to the family. The case prompted the creation of a national database for 911 call analysis, allowing dispatchers to share tactics. King's later interviews from prison showed no remorse, with him calling Denise a tough woman, in a mocking tone. The Lee family established an annual 5K run in Denise's name, raising funds for domestic violence shelters. The call has been used in universities to teach crisis communication, with students analyzing each question Denise posed. Unique fact: Denise's 911 call was placed at 9:47 p.m., and her body was found at 6:15 a.m. the next day, a span of just over 8 hours. The case influenced the development of a smartphone app called Silent 911 that allows users to text dispatchers without speaking. Denise's father, a retired police officer, said he was proud but heartbroken that his daughter's training in self-defense wasn't enough. The case was referenced in a 2015 Supreme Court argument about the admissibility of dying declarations in evidence. King's death sentence was upheld in 2018 by the Florida Supreme Court, but further appeals are ongoing. Denise's story was adapted into a fictionalized episode of Law and Order, SVU, which credited her bravery. The call has been viewed over 5 million times on YouTube in authorized clips, sparking global discussions about victim empowerment. Denise's legacy extends beyond one case. Her tactics have been incorporated into safety curricula for college women across the United States.